Welcome, welcome, fam. Thank you all so much for tuning back into the Money con Ganas community space. We are so honored today to have a special guest. You already know who this is. Internationally known, nationally known, locally admired and lifted. We're honored to have Gigi here with us, and you're going to get all kinds of insights on her. So just as a reminder, reintroducing ourselves, my name is Ruben. I use he, they pronouns. Joe, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Josie Benitez, and I also use he, they pronouns. Francisco?
Yeah, so Francisco Millan, personal finance enthusiast, and just excited for this conversation we're about to have.
Oh, enthusiast. We're using them big words. I see you flexing. Martin, go ahead, bro.
Yeah, Martin Mercado, he, him pronouns, excuse me. Crypto trader and investor, super excited for this conversation as well. So.
Love that. We got the vibes going. All right, Gigi, let me pass you the mic so you can just introduce yourself. Say to folks a little bit about who you are. Where can folks find you and follow up? And then we'll get into the questions. And as you know, we have some phenomenal questions for you today. So it's just a little intro for folks to get familiarized with you here.
Sounds good. Hi, Ruben. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me on the podcast. So honored to be here with you all. My name is Giovanna, but a lot of people know me as Gigi, the first gen mentor. I'm a financial educator and a TikTok finfluencer. So I say finfluencer because I'm an influencer, but I talk about financial matters. So on my accounts, I talk about personal finance as well as career readiness, as well as a little bit about my journey, about somebody being like a corporate employee, leaving that during the Great Resignation to now be a self-employed creative, as they call them. And you can find me on TikTok. My handle's at the First Gen Mentor, or on Instagram, my handle is Gigi, the First Gen Mentor.
Beautiful. Love that. So as we get off into this conversation, y'all, we just want to remind y'all, this is a community space. We're here to learn in public. We're here to learn with each other. We have some questions that we're going to start this conversation with. And we're super excited to make this conversational community vibes. This should feel like you're with us in this conversation, that we're all learning together. So we're going to go ahead and kick things off. And the first question is going to go to Francisco. Go ahead, bro.
Hi, Gigi. Yeah, so you touched on it on your introduction in terms of like what you do, where you work at. But what was that journey in terms of like your current expertise, working with the current population that you do try to work with? What did that look like in terms of from beginning to what led you to now where you currently stand?
So my professional background is in investment management. So the last 7 years or so, I've been working in investment consulting, most recently in investment management at a bank. But I developed a passion for personal finance a couple years ago. I say about 2 or 3 years ago. Just after wanting to learn how money worked, I just felt that people were starting to buy homes. You know, people my age were starting to settle down, buy homes, go on these nice vacations. And I still found myself living paycheck to paycheck. But I'm like, we all work at the same place. We all make around the same money. Like, how are these people getting these big purchases? And I'm still out here, with student loans and, living paycheck to paycheck. So I'm like, I think I need to maximize my money. So I really dove into learning everything I could about money. I did that through books. So one summer I spent, reading the entire summer, and I easily read like 30 to 40 personal finance books, just everything I could get my hands on. And once I learned what I learned, it was kind of like the gospel. Like, I'm like, this is what religious people feel like, where they like learn something and then they just want to tell everybody about it. So I looked for ways to share with people all the things that I learned, because I'm just like, wow, like, I can't believe I'm just learning this now. Like, we need to get this information to people sooner than later. So I was in Phoenix and I Googled ways to get involved with my community and teach financial literacy. And that's how I found the YWCA. So with the YWCA of Arizona, I met the qualifications to be a financial educator. They just wanted somebody that had a financial background and that had a passion for teaching. So they provided the materials, and then I facilitated the financial literacy workshop. So I did that for about 2 years, and I love doing it. And I still have a very close relationship to the YWCA. I actually went to lunch with the CEO last week of the Arizona chapter. So great community there. And most recently, I started just publishing the same. I don't want to say financial advice because it's not financial advice, financial education. I started posting this financial education on my TikTok account. I just put it out there hoping that it would help people that needed this information at a younger age. I just know that if somebody would have taught me at a younger age, I would have made different decisions. And my audience just started growing. I would have never imagined that it would be where it's at now, and that I've had the opportunities that I've had because of my platform. But I'm so thankful, and I still pinch myself that I get to do what I love for work.
That is so awesome. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just want to follow up. So yeah, that's your trajectory. And I mean, your Instagram handle and what you go by is the first gen mentor. Can you tell us a little bit more of like who your target audience is and like why you chose to focus on that target audience? Like what drove you to be more specific in terms of your niche, like folks who are actually listening to you, following you, looking for advice?
Yeah, so it kind of really came out of nowhere, to be honest. So when I was volunteering with the YWCA, I really wanted to help women, right? So that's an organization that supports women, specifically women of color. So I felt that that was my audience. And then when I was on TikTok, I never joined TikTok to be a content creator or to be, pushing out any sort of financial education, anything like that. I just joined for fun and as a distraction from the pandemic in March of 2020, like a lot of people did. But then it wasn't until March of 2021 of this year that I started posting financial education tips on my TikTok account. And that was after I saw a video on TikTok that it was a video of this like young privileged white woman that was talking about how law school was so easy for her because both her parents were lawyers. And if she ever got stuck on a question, she can just call them and they walk her through it. It just reeked of privilege, like, and especially with, the climate that we're in, I'm just like, this is so tone deaf. Like it just, I couldn't believe it. So I made a response. So if anybody's familiar with TikTok, there's like the stitch feature. So I made a video response to her privileged video, and I just addressed the first gen community. So I said, hey, any first gen babies, if you see this video, like don't feel unworthy because you don't have college educated parents. Like it's going to be a little bit harder for us because we have to do it on our own, but like you're smart, you're resilient, you're going to figure it out. And I just posted that just as a positive message to put it out there. Just because I'm first gen and I mentor first gen. At the time I had 2 first gen mentees that I was working with through my alma mater. So again, just put it out to spread positivity, and the comments were overwhelming of people just being like, wow, thank you for saying this. I saw that same video earlier and I felt like shit, so I appreciate you saying this. It's been hard trying to do it all on my own, and this gave me hope. So for me, that was like my little light bulb moment of like, wow, instead of just mindlessly scrolling through TikTok, I can actually like make a difference and put a positive spin in TikTok. And I'm like, okay, so let me address the first gen community because these are my people. But I'm like, how can I support the first gen community? And I'm like, okay, well, I'm really good with money, so I can teach them about money. And I thought I can also teach them about how to navigate the jungle that is corporate America, because that's something that I struggled with as a first gen professional. And then lastly, I also wanted to teach them a little bit about college navigation, but they actually told me they weren't interested in that. They're like, we want to learn about money. Like, we don't care about the college stuff. A lot of us already graduated. So that's kind of how that kind of evolved into being what it is.
That is
so like, yeah, fuck that college thing.
Yeah. Talk to us about the other stuff. Yeah. No, thank you so much. I think the other thing for me that is coming up, right, is given the community that we're coming from, right, that like you said, it just continues to keep working and working, right? It's something that is so difficult to think about, like taking a break, right? So from working at any point, right, in your career. Can you talk to us about the importance, for example, of a sabbatical, right? A sabbatical, I usually, when I think of one, right, it's more like only in academia it happens, right? I've never heard of it as happening for somebody outside of academia, for per se, right? So can you talk to us or tell us if you, for example, have taken one? Are you planning to take one, for example? What is the importance of it? And so on.
Yeah. So when I quit my corporate job in June of 2021, I felt that I was taking a sabbatical because I was quitting a stable job for the unknown. I didn't really have a plan. I just knew that I wanted time away from the corporate hamster wheel to pursue personal interests. So I actually just filmed a video about this because one of my followers asked me, like, what are you doing with your time? I'm like, well, let me tell you. So when I first quit my job, what I had envisioned was for me to really work on three things. So I wanted to continue focusing on building my TikTok account, so creating content on the platform, as well as doing financial literacy workshops like I've been doing through the YWCA, except now through my TikTok audience, I've been able to get paid opportunities with colleges and universities. And lastly, I wanted to spend a decent amount of time working on a personal finance book. I want to write a personal finance book of my own. So to me, that just meant having the time to work on the stuff I wanted to work on, not on stuff that my boss is assigning for me to do at work or the next thing I need to do for the next promotion. When I had initially saved up for my sabbatical, I had plans to travel. I had a big dream of traveling the world for 6 to 8 months, but obviously with COVID, not much traveling these days. So instead, I'm like, well, let me use this money to pursue these passion projects, is what I call them. And now these passion projects have evolved into a business. I mean, now what I do with influencer marketing, with these financial literacy workshops, I get paid for all these opportunities. So now I have an LLC and I trademark my name. So it's weird, to turn your hobby into a job, but that's what I'm up to these days.
Would you be able to like just briefly give like maybe an outline of just what steps someone could take to even think about having a sabbatical? Because a lot of us, like Jasim said, don't know what that takes, what it entails. So maybe like 2 or 3 steps just to in the initial phases. So maybe someone who's interested, like, oh, these are actionable items that you took.
Also,
Yeah, well, I think.
Can I add to that question, Gigi? So
Yeah.
if you can invite us to, like, what was the internal process and what was the external process of that? Because what I'm hearing from you is you're brilliant, but I'm also catching that you have multiple processes going on at once. So invite us to the internal process and the external process of making a decision of that nature, because that shit don't happen on automatic.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you caught that.
Your whole ass breathing just changed. Your whole ass breathing just changed right now. Do you think we're not catching this? Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you noticed that. Because a lot of people, especially, with social media, there's a lot of attention on what are called quit talks. I was actually just featured on the New York Times and Good Morning America for my quit talk. So what is a quit talk? It's just people posting online, I'm quitting my job. And a lot of people that do quit their job, they quit without a plan. Even though I didn't have a plan for what to do for work, I had financial savings. A lot of people didn't, I don't have the privilege to be able to quit without savings. But yeah, it was something that took a long time to plan financially. I had debt when I decided to go the sabbatical route. I knew that I wanted it to be for travel. So for me, that's something that really kept me motivated. I'm like, I really want to travel when I'm young because I might not make it till 65. And even if I do make it till 65, I might have a bad knee like my mom. And I'm not going to want to be, walking on ancient Roman ruins with a bad knee. I want to do it while I'm young and able-bodied, right? So to me, that was a good motivator, just knowing that, like, I can get some time away to do what I want to do for a couple months. And then understanding where my finances were. So I had to take inventory of, like, okay, what's my money situation like? Do I have any savings? How's my debt looking? At the time, I had student loans, I had a credit card debt, so I had to make a priority paying that off. Once I got paid off, then I really, really accelerated my savings, right? Because all that extra money was going towards my savings. To really help me save a lot of money was to leave Southern California. So like I mentioned to you guys before, I'm a SoCal native. But I just knew that with what I was earning in San Diego and with the cost of living, I wasn't going to be able to save at the rate that I wanted to. So my partner and I made the sacrifice of leaving Southern California to move to Phoenix, which I know not everybody has the ability to move, but if you do, it's definitely a good way to create some instant savings for yourself if you're able to move somewhere a little bit more cheaper. So that's really that's really helped the last 2.5 years that we've been here in Phoenix to pay off our debt, build up some savings. And then the third part I'd say would be, being ready to take the leap, which that's the hard part, because even though I had this big goal that I've been planning for 2 years, and then I have the savings for it, it still was tough to let go of stability to pursue the unknown, or even if it is something that interests me and lights me up, I'm still saying goodbye to something stable. So there definitely was a lot of internal turmoil, partly because I felt that I'm like, what if my boss or people in my industry think I'm not serious about my career? Because what if I need to go back, or what if I want to go back? I actually like the place that I worked at, and I like my career. I've been working very hard to where I was. And my parents too, I definitely had some slack from my dad, where my dad's like, are you crazy? Like, you have a job oficina with benefits, with AC, and you're going to let all that go, and I'm like, Dad, it's okay. I have savings. I still have my degrees. Nobody's taking that away. I still have my network. So if things don't work out, I can go back. But my friend, actually, there was one moment where my friend Chava, he's really the one that really pushed me to take the leap. He said, you have savings, right? I'm like, I do. And he says, and your boss and you are in good standing. I'm like, I do. Yeah, we're good. So he said, go for it. Like, he said, white people do this all the time. They have that privilege of just like pursuing what they want. Like, go for it. If things don't work out, you're not going to be living under a bridge. You have savings, you have a partner that you share expenses with. You're going to be okay, but just take the leap. And that really helped. And I took the leap, and it's crazy. Some of the opportunities that I've had, I would have never been able to say yes to these opportunities if I still worked at the bank that I was at. So I'm so thankful that I had that friend. And I thank him all the time that I see him. I'm like, thank you, Chava, for pushing me, because I really needed like an outsider encouraging me to take that leap.
Gigi, it's so amazing to hear you share that, because I personally relate as well. Like, you mentioned the Great Resignation. I also did kind of a really similar thing. We were just talking about this the other day. And I read an article the other day that said that most like Black and brown like people in this country, we haven't really been part of that Great Resignation statistic. So that's kind of, at least it's nice to see another person of color be able to do this, right? Because in that article it said that most of our people, for example, did not have the luxury, the privilege, or the savings, right? Or the kind of the planned out process of how to go through with this. So it's amazing, refreshing to hear somebody else say that as well. Gives me reassurance for what I'm doing as well, full time. But with that said, it kind of related to that. What would you say that the Latinx community and just communities of color in general have the biggest issues with regards to money, right? Whether it be somebody debating, quitting their job and pursuing something else, or just overall, what would you say that our communities of color struggle with the most with regards to money? I know that's a huge loaded question, but.
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind is accessibility. I feel like a long time I didn't pay attention to money or how to maximize my money or any of that, because obviously my parents weren't teaching it to me. They were immigrants, so they were tasked with just surviving, not really maximizing their income, right? So I didn't get it at home. But then also, any sort of financial educators that I did see on TV, or I don't know, in magazines or whatnot, they were all white, so I think of like the Susie Ormans, the David Box, which I'm thankful. I've learned a lot from all these people, but I feel like the message isn't as urgent when it's not people that look like you, so I feel that if I would have had people that look like me talking about this stuff, it would have felt like it was for me, and maybe I would have taken it more seriously. But this whole time it's like, well, yeah, that's for white people. That's because white people have better than me. So like, that doesn't apply to me, So I think that's why I think it's so important for me and other Latinas that I've met in this space to continue to show up for younger generations, so that they can see themselves in us, seeing a curly haired Latina talking about money. That means it's not just for white people, it's for all of us, so we all have to start paying attention and make better choices.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I don't know, Francisco, if you had another question or follow up to that.
No, I think Ruben had, as we're getting closer to closing off, I mean, this conversation has been really great and gone by so quickly that I'm hoping we have a future one. But, you know, with everyone's time, I know Ruben had a final question in terms of some of the things that you're working on.
Yeah, Gigi, I'm curious if we can do this this last question in two directions. Just from everything that you've taught us with the offerings that you've made so far. The original question is like, what's the impact that you want to have for the community? And I want you to answer that question. What I would also love to hear from you, just because of the stories and your lived experience that you've had thus far, you're on the other side of a lot of impossibilities. You're on the other side of a lot of hopes, dreams, and aspirations that many have, and for generations, they haven't experienced. You're on the other side of that. You're like the embodiment of those possibilities and what happened when we move in that direction. Because of that, your imagination and your realm of possibility is in a very different location than most of our communities. Sean de habla hispana, sean de habla inglés, like whatever intersectional identities they have, you're at a very different point of your imagination and realm of possibility. So what I also want to ask you is like, what are those dreams? What are those possibilities? What are those aspirational directions that you want to bring to this community so folks continue to move in that direction? I'm a nerd. I love books. I love when you said 30 to 40 books, and I'm like, holy shit, that's a fucking dream come true for me. Like, to just have a summer to read books, like, done. I'm gonna live that one day. But one of the people that I love is Eduardo Galeano. Me and the guys just are reading Las Venas Abiertas de Latinoamérica. And Galeano to me is like incredible. To that level of like Bell Hooks, who shout out transitioned to be an ancestor today. We lost Bell Hooks today, but she's now our ancestor moving forward. And Galeano has this really beautiful teaching that says like, what's the purpose of utopia? Every time that you move one step closer, it feels 10 steps farther. And then you make those 10 steps and it feels 20 steps farther. So then I ask myself, what's the point of this utopic thinking? But the point of it is that it energizes you to keep going, because we don't know what is ahead. We don't know the dreams, the possibilities, unless we are moving in that direction. And I love that. And I think you're that person. You have that embodiment of that energy that you're helping our communities believe in possibility, because you're leaving them, like living them and actively teaching us about them. So I would love to hear your dreams and your aspirations. So if that's okay, just to give you a little bit of a play question, what impact do you want to have, and what are those dreams and aspirations that you want to invite our communities towards?
Yeah, great question. So for the impact that I want to make, I think I would love to influence all young first-gen professionals to take their money seriously sooner than later. Because what happened to me was, I thought that as long as my rent was paid and I was paying, the minimum payment on my credit cards and the lights were on, I thought I was good, because that's what my parents considered to be good as immigrants to this country. But I didn't realize that as a first-gen professional, with the income that I was making, a corporate salary, more than my parents had ever made in their working class jobs, that I had the opportunity to build wealth. I didn't know that that was available to me. I just thought that debt is just a part of life, and I'm going to have these student loans for the next 10 years, and it is what it is. So I know that through my account, I'm encouraging people to take their debt payoff journey more seriously, and don't just pay the minimum payment. Try harder to really pay it off sooner, so that you can start building towards those dreams, whether that dream is saving for a down payment for a home, or to travel the world like I dreamed, or to start your own business. So I hope that's the impact that I get to make, that the young first-gen babies, as I call them, see themselves in me and know that it isn't just white people shit to go travel the world for a year, or to do van life, or whatever these things they want to do. And then as for what are my dreams, you hit a lot on a lot of points. It's kind of hard to dream when you don't know what's out there, like you said, right? So a lot of these opportunities that I've had, I would have never, that wasn't even an ambition of mine to be like quoted in the New York Times. Like, but it's crazy. Like now I can say that, even being a speaker at FinCon, I was a speaker at FinCon, which is a huge financial convention. It was in Austin, Texas this year. And as a money nerd, I've been a fan of FinCon for a couple years now, just kind of watch people like, oh, cool, Never would I have thought that I would be a FinCon speaker doing a 30-minute monologue on wealth building as a first generation American, So to be honest, I don't know how big this can be. I'm working with a business coach and she does a lot of mindset work on us where she wants us to visualize how big this could be for us. And I mean, if you want me to shoot for the stars, I would say I want to be like a best-selling author with this personal finance book that I have. I'd love to see it like in like bookshelves at Target, like a lot of personal finance books. I would love for people to think anything Latina or money or first gen, to think of me, for me to be the person that comes to mind, and to be like a financial pundit, like on TV and stuff like that. And I really would love to continue doing the educational work that I'm doing with colleges and universities. A lot of people, they're very like, ooh, wow, about like the influencer stuff that I do, which, that's cool and it pays the bills, but I 1000% rather be in a classroom setting talking to kids about financial literacy and what it can do for them. So I think that's what's different about me as a financial educator from some of my peers. I feel like a lot of people are like, look at me, I'm a millionaire and I'll show you how by my course. Where me, I'm not bragging so much about anything that I've been able to accomplish. I just say, hey, like I learned how this stuff works and it's literally been life-changing for me to be able to quit a stable job with benefits to pursue what I'm doing now. Like that took planning and that took understanding how money works. So let me show you how, so you can make better decisions for yourself too.
I love that. I love that. I appreciate you so much, Gigi, in so many ways. Not just everything that you're doing, but that you had the calling to be sharing with us in real time. Because it's a lot for us to just go through our own unlearning and learning processes, healing and growth processes, but then to prioritize actively sharing as you go, and that you're putting yourself in all of these spaces, whether they're BIPOC or predominantly white-bodied, that you're just in community, actively willing to be there. That's absolutely incredible. There's so many lessons and everything that you offer just in this first conversation. And I hope that this is just the first conversation, because I'm super excited to stay in community with you. I hope you know this, but wherever any of us four are, you have a home, you have familia, you have space with us. Hopefully you know some people. I know you know some people because they told us about you that have already visited us and we've kicked it with them. And you know that we're just a chosen family here. So thank you for being willing to be here with us. Thank you for being willing to answer the community questions that came up. I have one more, if that's okay. I know that we have a couple minutes and I want to pass the mic to the guys to see if there's anything else that came up as we're wrapping up here. But if you had to make a book recommendation, a movie recommendation, and a music artist or album for people to listen to, what would be your recommendations for folks? Book, movie, and music.
Does a book have to be money or just anything?
Everybody always asks that question. It can be about whatever you want it to be.
Okay. Let's go with money, just because, knowing how money works is transformative and it gives you options. And I'm all about people of color, BIPOC folks having options. So I mean, the one money book that I always recommend to my audience is I Will Teach You to Be Rich. If you guys aren't familiar with the book, the title's kind of gimmicky, but it's a great book. It's very accessible in a way where the author just is like, makes it really funny and really entertaining. He's like sarcastic even. So it's not like a dry personal finance book. It makes it fun for you to learn. A movie, I would say, I guess it's more of a documentary, but for me, the documentary Minimalism on Netflix was pretty transformative. Just like knowing that like having more stuff just doesn't make you happy. So we don't even have like a kitchen table, because we used to have one, my partner and I, but we saw that we never ate on it. We would just eat on the coffee table in front of the TV. And we got rid of it because we're like, we don't ever use it. We would hang clothes up on it to dry. Like we would have, newspaper, just, the bills, just trash on it all the time. So yeah, we haven't had a kitchen table for about 2.5 years now, and it's great. We haven't missed it once. So I think that's pretty helpful. Minimalism, and then, sorry, what was the third thing you asked? Music. Okay. I would say just like, I don't know, I love listening to John Mayer. He just like calms me down. I feel like when I go out, I want to be able to like listen to a John Mayer song because it just chills me out. So
do you have a John Mayer song that you've been listening to more lately, or that you just enjoy more?
My favorite is like Vultures. I don't know, I like his older stuff, but yeah, I've seen him in concert twice. He's great. I remember I used to hear about him back in the day because he was like the playboy. He had all these girlfriends, and I always was like, oh, this guy, who does he think he is? But I didn't know his music. And then once I started listening to his music, I'm like, like that's why these girls all line up to be with him.
I get it now. I love that. Thanks for the Rex. Let me pass the mic real quick as we're wrapping up here, and we have a couple minutes. I'll pass the mic to each one of you to see if there's anything else that you want to offer to Gigi. Francisco, and you go first. Anything else to close us out today?
Just want to say thank you for being brave enough to share a lot of this. Personal finance is very difficult to like deal with and like talk about, and you're bringing accessibility, like you mentioned, to a lot of folks who otherwise may put off taking any action for years, if not decades. And I think the impact you'll have on people's lives is just gonna like continue to grow. And from now to the future, I can only imagine how many people you'll impact in a way that our community really needs. So for that, I thank you. And then thank you for sharing this space with us. This conversation has been amazing. It's been a lot of fun, and hopefully we can have future ones.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. I'm so honored to be here with you guys. I had a lot of fun.
What about you, Joe? Anything to close us, bring us home with? And then I'm gonna pass it to you, Martin. Be ready.
Yeah, no, it's for me, what I was going through my mind as you were sharing stuff, it's that you have become like an engineer slash architect slash in Espanol, I would say like an albañil, because you are creating this roadmap from scratch, and you're able to like literally, you're taking one step at a time, yet you're letting everybody else know what is it that you're doing, right? So that they can know as to, the mistakes that you've made, right? And for them to learn from those. So thank you so much for, being open and willing to have a conversation with us. It is, amazing to know that there's folks out there trying to help out, the community and make sure that, the younger generations have it better than we did, right? So thank you for that.
Thank you. I think that's what drives us all. I think that's what drives you guys to be spending your Wednesday evening, right, talking about this stuff, just wanting to support our community and elevate our community. So right back at you. I appreciate everything you guys do for us. What
about you, Martin? Bring us
the
home,
last
bro.
thing I'll say, Gigi, is that this has been a really energizing conversation. I think for all of us, has been echoed. I really, really relate to a lot of the things you said in regards to when you quit your job. And so I find that to be, again, extremely refreshing. I had a lot of the same things happen to me. My parents were like, how are you going to quit your job with benefits? Like a lot of the same shit went down in my household that I can imagine went down in yours. So, it's fantastic to see others go through the same thing, especially when around me, I don't really see that. And so, the relatability, the accessibility, like Mian mentioned, you're doing everybody a service, and keep doing it. I hope to be in community with you, as we all, I'm sure, do. So yeah, I just want to say thank you. This has been great.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Martin.
And Gigi, as we come to a close, we always like to pass the mic to the guests because, honestly, mujeres should always have the mic. Men are just trash and get in the way. So I want to pass you the mic to bring us home with like one last time. where can people find you as they get like super excited by everything that you offered today? And what are the final words that you want to share to community to close out today's conversation in the Money con Ganas community space?
For community, I would say keep learning, keep immersing yourself in the language of money. So if podcast is your thing, listening to something like this, keep listening to more episodes of Money con Ganas. Also, let's take on other forms of learning. So whether that's watching YouTube videos, watching TikToks, some people love courses. I just promoted a free 6-week class with the YWCA. So if you like in-person instruction better, then pursue that. If you rather listen to an audiobook, do that. Workbooks, there's just so many ways to learn. The library has so many free resources, but you're really going to have to take ownership of your learning, because this isn't something that they teach you at school, and it's not something that your immigrant parents are going to teach you. They're not going to teach you at your job either in corporate America, so it really is going to take you taking the initiative to look for these resources. And there are people like us here wanting to support you, but you got to put the work in by being a part of the community. So if you like to follow me and my ass shaking on TikTok, that's going to be at the First Gen Mentor. On Instagram, I basically just repost a lot of my TikToks. I am more active now on Instagram stories. So you can find me there at Gigi, the First Gen Mentor. And you can also check out my website, which is thefirstgenmentor.com, if you want to be kept in the loop about my book writing journey.
Love that. Thank you once again. All right, we're going to bring this to a close, y'all. And in honor of Bell Hooks, I'm going to leave us with a Bell Hooks quote. And in honor of Gigi, we're going to celebrate Gigi for all of the wisdom that came in today. And I'm going to bring us home to the Money con Ganas closure for today's conversation with this. And it says, if we want a beloved community, we must stand for justice. To build community requires vigilant awareness of the work we must continually do to undermine all of the socialization that leads us to behave in ways that perpetuate domination. Gigi, thank you for being that energy in our community. Thank you for moving us in and towards a beloved community. You are absolutely phenomenal. It was an honor and a privilege to share quality time with you. Money con Ganas community, this was our conversation today. We wish you safety, we wish you peace, and we wish you abundance. Take care, y'all.